Hello YouTube, I'm Meffering225, and today I bring you a playthrough of a Mega Man fan game. Now normally I don't do a lot of fan games on this channel, least of all Mega Man fan games. I just never really found any interest, but this came out a couple of days ago and I decided to give it a try, and I really like what's on offer here. It's a very short game. It is called Mega Man Ram, because the antagonist is Sheep Man for some reason. Apparently it has nothing to do with random access memory. When it comes to Sheep Man, the puns just start writing themselves without you even knowing it. So anyways, as stated, it's a very short fan game, only 8 stages in total, 6 of them being the robot masters for the game, 3 of which are female. I never knew why they stopped making female robot masters after Splash Woman, but here you go. The first stage we're playing is Sugaku Woman. I don't really know for sure what Sugaku means. I think it means mathematics. That's what Google said when I looked it up. And I guess that would explain the choice of enemies for this stage, as well as the fact that Sugaku Woman appears to be wearing a graduation robe, but I don't really know for sure, so let's just move on. Mega Man Ram has some very solid level design in my opinion. However, the reason I started with Sugaku Woman is that it's actually a very short and easy stage. 2 of the stages in this game feel like they could be a lot longer and the game wouldn't suffer for it. Like, I'm not really a fan of excessively long stages, but Sugaku Woman and one other stage just give the impression that they could have been longer. I don't know. Also, the boss of this stage is really easy, and she gives an incredibly overpowered weapon. So it's a natural pick to go to this stage first. Anyways, as you can see, there are a couple of new enemies here. We've got a Sniper Joe that I actually do kind of like fighting against because he actually lowers his guard for a long time, throwing those blades that come back to him. So yeah, pretty good enemy. And here we have a mini-boss. Now, the thing about mini-bosses in Mega Man Ram is that if I could make a general criticism of the game is that there's too many mini-bosses in enemy layouts where you can just stand still and rapid fire and actually, like, eventually beat them. And also we have an elevator segment to close down this level. It's not much to speak of, you just gotta be sure to hit that button. I think this was used in another Mega Man game, one of the official ones, I don't really know for sure though. But that enemy in particular, that's the biggest danger in the entire stage, because it could push you into the spikes and you'd have no way to get into the center of the screen in order to avoid that. But other than that, not really difficult to avoid most of the other hazards in that elevator segment, so it's fine. And here we are already at the boss, with a big enemy in front of it, like it's Mega Man 1. Yeah, see what I mean about this stage being short? And the boss is really easy too. Sugaku Woman is the only boss in the game to take 3 damage instead of 2 from a charge shot, so this makes her very simple to defeat, and she telegraphs all of her attacks. You can see that a line shows the path that the bullet is going to take. There's one attack where she does not have a line out. It's that wavy attack there, and of course this ring is also interesting. Like, the ring will just show you where the bullet is going to go, and then you have to avoid it, because it disappears after the ring starts going. So yeah, not a very difficult boss at all, and the weapon you get from her, the parabolic charge, as it's called, it fires in an arc, sort of like the axe sub-weapon from Castlevania. And not only is it very powerful, but whenever it hits something, it actually heals you for 2 health. Of course, you have to wait for the bullet to come back to you and start healing you, but that's an incredible weapon. Very spammable. It hasn't got the ammo of Metal Blade, but it certainly has the spammability of Metal Blade, because, like, if it tears through multiple enemies at once, you can recover a lot of health that way. And we'll be seeing it used quite a lot if I take a lot of damage in the following stages. Next up is the other very short stage, Chimeraman, and it's unfortunate that this stage is short because it actually has a very nice concept going for it. You can see that we have a couple of miniature hot dog enemies, and as soon as I get past these weird blocks, I don't know what's up with those. What are they, Chimera blocks or something? Well, we've got a Chimera robot right here. It's like 4 or 5 different mini-bosses meshed into one. I love this concept. It's so cool. And unfortunately, there's only about 3 of them in the level. Like, there's a second one you can fight here. This is actually an alternate path. Normally, you would fall down that pit that appears after destroying the first one, but if you go to the right, you can pick up some extra goodies here. Just go down this ladder and you will find some health recovery, some weapon energy, a 1-up, and more bolts. Bolts can be used at this shop. It's very much like the Mega Man 10 shop, but I don't use it at all in this playthrough, even though there are a couple of interesting items. But enough about that for now. I have just demonstrated the new utility item that you have from the start of the game. It is called the Teleport Phaser, and what it does is, well, it lets you jump straight upwards, as if you were teleporting out of the level, and it actually strikes enemies on the way up, so that's a really interesting utility item. You don't have rush or anything in this game, and here I'm using the parabolic charge to recover some health by getting that enemy to respawn. I kind of messed up this section here with the bombs and everything. You can kind of see what you're supposed to do. You have to hit the switch on that bomb very quickly in order to not have it blow up and send you into the lava. And as you can see on this mini-boss, I am using the parabolic charge as it gives me all of my health back every time I hit this enemy with it. Really, the parabolic charge should probably only heal you if you destroy an enemy with it, but even then that probably might be too much. And we are already at the end of the stage. There was only one Chimera mini-boss, or one type of them anyways. That's unfortunate. I thought there would be like a couple more, maybe placed in interesting positions. But whatever, we're fighting Chimeraman now. He is actually a very fun battle in my opinion. He's got a wide variety of moves, and he's very difficult to fight if you use only the charged shots against him. This shield that he puts up may be a little excessive, however, because you have to be very, very precise if you want to get a bullet in on him, but you actually can get bullets past the shield. It's not like Woodman's Leaf Shield from Mega Man 2. But it does block your charge shots, I think. The only real way to get a charge shot on him when he's got the shield up is to fire inside of him, which is probably not good. Many of the special weapons can bypass the shield, like the parabolic charge. So yeah, I'm just going to abuse this. It works on bosses, by the way. The healing works on bosses too. Of course, you have to actually hit them. And since the parabolic charge only does 1 damage to this guy, it's probably not ideal, but still. You can see that I'm using it quite a lot, and managing to survive for far longer than I should have. Anyways, I'm going to switch to the utility item from before, the Teleport Phaser, because it can work on bosses too. And since Chimeraman flies in the air quite a lot, that is an interesting way to fight him if you wanted to use that against him. And you can still use the regular buster shots even while you've got the Teleport Phaser equipped. Anyways, for defeating Chimeraman, we get probably the game's worst weapon. The Amalgam Inferno, as it is known, is supposed to be the powerful weapon with a low ammo count, kind of like the Crash Bomb, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's not really going to get used all that much, except against the boss that is weak to it. Moving on to Traction Woman stage, which is a car-themed stage. It's pretty cool. I like that the Metors get their own little cars, that's pretty funny. They do quite a lot of damage when they run me over, though. And there are Sniper Joes in cars as well. You can just hit their cars with a charge shot and then walk right past them. Yeah, I'm kind of taking a lot of damage here. That's because I know I can just use the parabolic charge to refuel on health. Yeah. There's also mud in some of the parts of the stage. Oh, and that guy right there, that was a large enemy that is easily defeated with the parabolic charge. But even if you were using just the buster, there are actually a lot of safe spots in this part of the level based on how their attacks work. Anyways, we are going to use the Teleport Phaser in order to skip chunks of the level now, because I don't want to deal with those wheelie thingamajigs. Whatever you're supposed to call them. I think all the enemies are named, the new ones anyways. So yeah, just gonna damage boost past this guy. I think this game would actually make for a very interesting speedrun if anyone wants to take that up. Because in addition to there being only 8 stages for the whole game, there's just a lot of ways to skillfully bypass challenges with weapons, utilities, and things of that nature. Anyways, we have a mini-boss. This is actually a very creative mini-boss in my opinion. It is a stack of tires. Kind of reminds me of one of the enemies from the older Mega Man games, but this one, he's just all over the place. And he's very predictable. You can always tell where he's going to go after he spreads out all over the floor. It can be a little bit difficult to hit him. I tried using Amalgam Inferno here, but unfortunately he's immune to it, so that was unfortunate. The best way to fight him seems to be just getting your parabolic charge and firing it point blank on the head with the eyes. Parabolic charge, it's so crazy. And here we have a section where Mega Man gets his own car. This is fortunately nothing like the ride chasers from the X games, because those are just awful. This you can actually control. You can brake, you can turn around. Very easy to get enough speed to get over these jumps. They're not really difficult jumps to make. Not like those insanely precise jumps on the ride chasers back in Extreme 2. Man, those were even worse than the ones from Squid Adler's stage. Anybody remember that? Anyways, that was a pretty short section. It probably could have gone on a little bit longer too, but that's fine. The length of this stage is pretty okay in my opinion. So we're up to Traction Woman, and this was a pretty intense fight as well. I was not expecting to be able to beat her without losing a life, but I did it, miraculously enough. Anyway, she's got two basic attacks. One is to toss out those two tires, and the other is to ram into you. Now, you gotta be careful, though, because I think past half health, she is able to turn around immediately after ramming into the wall. Like, right here, as a matter of fact. There's no real telegraph for it, so the best plan is probably to stick to the center of the stage and react to whatever she does. Nice background, by the way. It's nice to think that I'm fighting her inside her own garage. That's pretty amusing to me. Anyways, you get an interesting weapon from her. You get, I forget what it's called, but it's sort of like topspin. What it does is that if you are moving and you hit the button to fire your buster, you actually dash forward while spinning. So it's kind of like topspin, but it's only on the ground, which makes it not really that interesting of a weapon. It does fire off a projectile from the skid marks that you make, but I just don't really think it's all that useful. I'm going to try to use it in this playthrough, but it's not as good as Parabolic Charge, of course. Anyways, next up is Creamery Man stage, and if you can't guess what the theme of this stage is going to be, I can't help you. So yeah, this is probably my favorite stage in the game for obvious reasons. It makes me feel very hungry all of a sudden. I don't know who decided that they wanted to try using ice cream to kill Mega Man, but it's probably a better idea than a hamburger, wouldn't you say? Yes. So, this stage has some very creative enemies, in my opinion. There's an enemy here that I just shot. It flings ice cream into the air, and wherever it lands, if you touch the ice cream, then it actually freezes you for a brief moment. That can actually be very lethal if you're, like, right in front of a spike bed or something, and the conveyor belt decides to push you into it. That doesn't really happen too often, though. The ice cream doesn't freeze you for nearly long enough for it to be that big a threat. And then we have the mini-boss, which is apparently a giant chocolate eyeball that has one of 3 different sweet forms. I don't really know what's up with that, but the easiest way to deal with this mini-boss is to just shoot it with a Parabolic Charge, because then you don't even have to jump and hit it when the eye is open. Of course, the eye still has to be open in order to damage it, and you can see that the Parabolic Charge is a little bit slower because the energy that comes out of the enemy when you hit something with Parabolic Charge, it has to come back to you to heal you, of course. And now we've got ice physics. These blocks are slippery, and I am pretty sure that ice cream-laden floor is also slippery. I don't know why I'm shooting at the chocolate missiles. That's literally what they are called. I looked this up. And this is one situation that you do not want the Parabolic Charge. This is very embarrassing for me. I should have just switched to the Buster and used that instead. So, you can actually farm energy off of these guys if you don't mind using up all your Parabolic Charge ammunition. And this jump, this is unfortunately one of the parts of the stage that I don't like, because it is one of those jumps where you have to be very close to the edge in order to make the jump. So yeah, this is one situation where I'm going to recommend lowering the platform on the other side just a little bit, like 1 block. That's all you have to do in order to make it a much more reasonable jump. Because you've got ice physics in addition to having to make an edge jump. I'm not sure how precise the other jumps in this part of the stage need to be, but, you know. So yeah, we're going to have to go through that again, and I wish I had remembered that you really should just use the teleport phaser in order to bypass this problem entirely, but I did not remember in my playthrough. So we're coming up on the boss here. The boss is actually weak against the Parabolic Charge, which just means that I have even more reason to use it. I really should have just used Buster only, though, because, you know, the standard for Mega Man playthroughs, I think, is to just use the Buster only the first time you fight them, and then in the inevitable rematch, you can go wild with their weaknesses, but here we go. I also like Creamery Man as a boss, too, because he has a lot of projectiles, he slides around on the floor, and, yes, the floor does in fact have ice physics on it, too, so that's unique for this battle as well. And you can actually destroy these various projectiles with the Parabolic Charge as well, which will allow you to recover even more health. Yeah. And on top of all of this, we get a very nice weapon from Creamery Man. It is the Soft Serve Seeker, I believe. That's a really silly name. Some of the weapon names are crazy in this game, man. Anyways, it is a homing missile that also freezes enemies like Ice Slasher. So that's a really good weapon. It's going to be really good in Sickle Woman stage, which is where we're going next. I definitely don't want to have to play Sickle Woman stage without Soft Serve Seeker. That's going to be a mouthful saying that over and over again. Try that 3 times fast. Anyways, Sickle Woman stage is based around cutting things. So these Metors actually have a secret weapon, which we will see when I actually allow one of them to fire it. But for this first part of the level, it's nothing too special, and then you get to this. These platforms actually fall if you stay on them for too long. And I didn't know that at first because I was actually getting off the platform as soon as I was on it. But yeah, those enemies that fly at you in this part of the stage... Oh, very nice mini-boss fight, by the way. Unfortunately, this is another situation where you basically just have to rapid fire at it until it dies. Anyways, the section with the falling platforms has an enemy in it that will fire a projectile at a very precise angle so as to cause you to get hit, stumble into a bottomless pit, and lose a life. Like it's Castlevania all over again, with all of those enemies that would just shove you into the pits, and that was far more threatening than the amount of damage they did. So that's why Soft Serve Seeker is very good for this stage, because it will allow you to just... oh, you can also freeze regular enemies, I mentioned that before, but now I've demonstrated it. And I've also demonstrated the secret weapon that the Meteors in this stage have. They have a scythe that not only slashes in front of them, it fires a projectile that tracks your position before flying off screen. Unfortunately, both the scythe and the projectile block your buster shots, so if you are not quick on the draw and hit the Meteor the instant it lowers its guard, then your shot is going to be blocked and you're probably going to get hit. An annoying enemy to deal with for sure, but one that you can kind of learn how to deal with. So it's not that bad. This section is the section that I was talking about. We're going to see more of those bug enemies atop platforms that fall as soon as you step on them, and that's going to make this one dangerous section, and those saw blades are only making it worse. But as you can see, the projectile hit me in precisely the right location. That was most definitely the height of my jump that I was aiming directly at. So this can potentially be an annoying section. Fortunately, I only died to it once, and this is one of the only 2 deaths that I have in this entire playthrough. You saw the other one back in Creamery Man stage. So yeah, this is another section that I would probably make some adjustments to. Maybe you could fix the height at which those bugs fire their projectiles, but I don't really know. I just think it would be very difficult to get through this with only the Buster, but with the Soft Serve Seeker, it's totally alright, and you can deal with it by just firing and then letting the weapon do its job for you, and then you can just run across the platform. Maybe have a regular platform that doesn't fall in the middle of all of that, but it's right before the boss, so it's really not a huge deal. Anyways, Sickle Woman is the boss of this level, and she is weak to the Amalgam Inferno, so we're going to be using this. Now, I want to remind everybody that the Amalgam Inferno only splits into 2 projectiles after it has gone a certain amount of distance or it has hit an enemy. You cannot control when it splits, which I think would be a big help in making it a more useful weapon, because as is, like, due to its low ammo count, it's really not the best thing in the world, I would say. But yeah, it is the weakness of Sickle Woman, and I used it against her. I don't really know anything about her pattern because I just used the weakness on her. Anyways, I completely forgot what her weapon is called, so I'm sure I will remember, but for now, let's get to Spiral Man stage, which is my least favorite out of the 8 in this game. Unfortunately, Spiral Man stage just have a gimmick that I was not fond of at all. Anyways, it starts out with some basic enemies. These are easy to deal with. You could probably just power through them with some of your weapons, in fact. But after we get past this part, we find the gimmick of the stage. These weird-looking bombs or explodables, I don't really know what they are, but when they explode, they actually push you in the direction that you were touching them in. So as you can see, if you are above the bomb, when it explodes, it shoots you upwards, and this is used throughout the stage. You have to actually use this in order to push yourself across gaps, but I found it really difficult to learn how the physics of the bombs actually work. So throughout this stage, you are actually going to see me bypass this gimmick entirely and just use the teleport phaser, because I have no idea how you are supposed to get past some of the gaps with those bombs in this stage. And since so many of them push you over instant death gaps or have like spikes above them, making a mistake means you have to replay parts of the stage over again. I just really couldn't connect with this level idea, unfortunately. So I have to write off Spiral Man as the one not-so-good stage in a game with a bunch of stages that are either very good or at the very least decent. So anyways, yeah, you can see more of this parabolic charge use. We're getting a lot of mileage out of that weapon, I must say, and enemies tend to drop more weapon energy capsules to let us refuel it if it runs out, and we can just keep on using it. So yes, this room is definitely one of the tough parts because of how you have to use the bomb to get across the gap and onto the moving platforms. So I just time a teleport phaser correctly in order to bypass having to use it entirely. And at least the one in this room isn't so bad. Like, if you wanted to fix this issue I'm having with the stage, I think I would make it so that the bombs can only push you in one of 8 directions, and then design the gaps based around that, and make it easier for the player to determine which direction they're getting shoved in. Like that just seems like the best idea to me, because you've only got one shot at getting over some of these gaps. Otherwise, you lose a life, and you have to play through part of the stage over again. That's what I would do. Also, Soft Serve Seeker can actually home in on the bombs, which is also not good if you're trying to use it to fight enemies. So, anyways, with all of that out of the way, the boss is just past this gap. I just have to get onto one of these platforms and then use another teleport phaser to get up there. Right, so Spiral Man is my least favorite boss in the game as well, because he just isn't all that interesting. He's not crazy difficult or anything, he's just not that interesting to fight, because it seems to me that he only has these horizontal firing projectiles that are a little bit erratic, but the closer you are to him, the easier it is to dodge them. I'm just using the parabolic charge because I'm cheap. And then he just gets into the center of the screen, becomes invincible, and fires projectiles in a spiral pattern. It's the same pattern every time, so you just have to be in the right place to avoid them. Like, the only thing about this pattern is that he is constantly pushing you towards the wall, which is where you're going to get hit by the pattern. So yeah, that's not difficult at all. Even the parabolic charge is a good weapon here, even though it's not his official weakness. It's still very good, does 2 damage, easily spammable, easy to aim. Yeah. Have I mentioned that parabolic charge is a really good weapon? Anyways, the weapon you get from Spiral Man isn't that great either, in my opinion. It's just a screen clear as far as I can see. I don't really know how it works. But it has a really low ammo count as well, so like Amalgam Inferno, don't expect me to use it too much. Anyways, we're moving on to the Sheep Fortress. Sheep Fortress? I have no idea what drove the creator of this fan game to choose Sheep Man as an antagonist, but it's really, really hilarious, so I think it works out very nicely. Anyways, the first of the 2 fortress stages has a lot of gimmicks from Sheep Man's stage back in Mega Man 10, although I don't remember it all too well because it's been a while since I played Mega Man 10. Actually, the conveyor belts that power up the platforms, I think that was more of a Strike Man thing, but I could be wrong. I haven't played that game in forever. Anyways, we have some simple screens. You probably could just damage boost past these Sniper Joes. This screen is not so simple. You actually want to destroy this Sniper Joe, otherwise he's probably going to push you into the pit. Yes, you can see that I was trying to use Amalgam Inferno again, but there appears to be no way to control when it splits. So I just used the Soft Serve Seeker. It freezes him in place, and you can just keep firing at him until he's gone. And there are actually 3 bosses throughout this fortress level. So what do we have here exactly? We have Hornet Man fused with Jewel Man and then gender swapped. This is the best, I gotta say. That was a really creative idea. It's kind of similar to the whole Chimera bot thing that happens at the end of Rockman Minus Infinity, if you've ever played that. Anyways, each of these bosses has 2 weaknesses. The Data Spiral is one of them, but unfortunately I ran out of ammo because apparently you can't always hit something with a Data Spiral. I thought it was a screen clearing attack, but apparently it isn't. But yes, Jeweled Hornet Woman, or Jeweled Honey Woman, I don't really know. She has a simple pattern that's not really difficult to get past. I think the Jewel Satellite there also kind of works like the shield that Chimeraman had. Anyways, we have a section here where I'm finally going to use Traction Woman's weapon. And as you can see, it kind of works. It's kind of doing something, but I do take a lot of hits. So, like with Topspin, it's probably much more dangerous to use than it should be. Anyways, we just have to get past these 2 enemies. I suppose it is useful for increasing your speed, because you can dash very quickly with that weapon. And we have some more of these platforms that you have to power up using the conveyor belt. This is actually a pretty interesting use of the gimmick, because now you have a conveyor belt that you are running against with a spike ceiling just above, so be careful how high you jump. Of course, you can run back into the conveyor belt in order to power it up before moving on. And then we have a large energy capsule that you can get if you need to refill on health. And then you can use the teleport phaser to get back up here. I think you have to jump onto the platform on the far left if you're not using the teleport phaser. So now we have... who are these 2? Strike Man and Blade Man, I want to say. They're both from Mega Man 10. So finally I am using Sickle Woman's weapon. It is a sword that fires a projectile, and it's the weakness of this boss. Well, one of them anyways. it's actually a really nice weapon. It reminds me of, you know, it kind of feels like you're using a whip back in the Castlevania games, because when you initiate the slash, you can't really, like, you have to stop for a little bit as the weapon is being fired. And if you kill something with it, it gets sliced in half. Well, the regular enemies anyways. I don't know if that applies to the bosses, but that's a really nice detail of the weapon. It's unfortunate that it doesn't have that much ammo to it. So now we have what are probably a pair of Mega Man 11 bosses. That was Bounce Man, and I have no idea. I haven't even played Mega Man 11. I really should get on that someday. So yes, this is a boss that I completely forgot what their weakness was. I think it's also gender swap, so it's probably a she. I forgot what her weakness was, but what I should have realized a lot sooner than I did is this boss is using a lot of fire attacks. You could probably defeat her by hitting her with ice cream. So yeah, and her weakness is ice cream. So use the Soft Serve Seeker. It does 5 damage, which is actually a lot more than any other boss weakness in the game. Normally it's like 3 or 4 damage that the weakness does, but this one does 5. And the reason I know that precisely is because this game actually has an option that lets you display the exact amount of damage you are doing whenever a weapon hits an enemy or boss. That's useful because it lets me know that the parabolic charge does 2.5 points of damage. Really weird. But anyways, we're moving on to the final stage. And it's going to contain boss rematches, and a lot of them. Not only with the 6 main bosses, but also a lot of mini-boss rematches as well. So here we go. We have a drop into a pit. Yeah, I actually played an earlier version of this game before making this video. And in that earlier version, I think a lot of the mini-bosses had a lot less health than they do now, and there were a lot more power-ups placed throughout this stage. That's based on what I remember, but in the current version, what you see right here is what you are getting. And we have another section with a car, with more gaps and more enemies to jump over. And you can just walk past that one. I don't know what's up with that. So we have the return of this caterpillar mini-boss. I think the mini-bosses also changed to be a little bit tougher. When we get to the boss rematches, they actually do change just a tad in order to make them a little different. And I thought you could go off to the right there, but you cannot. This is not like Chimeraman stage. Anyways, speaking of Chimeraman, we have the mini-boss from his stage. This one hasn't really changed at all. These missiles seem a little bit new, though, but you just have to shoot at the head until he's gone. And we have the mini-boss from Creamery Man stage. Yeah, not much to say here. Same as the previous version of this fight. Just got to keep hitting him over and over, use the parabolic charge because it's really powerful, and then you fall into the room with Traction Woman's mini-boss. Yeah, so just a lot of parabolic charge uses. I don't know what to say. This weapon is just way too powerful. Alright then. So now we have the capsule leading to the boss rematches. And I'm going to use a lot more of the boss weaknesses this time around. So let's start with Traction Woman. No, not Attraction Woman, but I guess she could be attractive. Anyways, her weakness is the Data Spiral, and if I'm not mistaken, that's doing even more damage than the Soft Serve Seeker did to that Chimera boss earlier. And anyways, we're up to Creamery Man now, so we're just going to use... Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I must have completely forgotten what his weakness was. Come on, me. Anyways, you know, now that I think about it, I think Creamery Man kind of looks a little bit like Napalm Man, with the thing on his forehead that's pointing outwards, like the Napalm Man's bomb did. Anyways, next boss. It is Sugaku Woman. For this boss, I just decided to eventually just start using the Buster against her, because it's much easier to use the Buster than whatever else I can throw at her. Like, I'm not even sure what her weakness is. I think by process of elimination, it must be either Sickle Woman's weapon. No, Sickle Woman's weapon is good against another boss, so I don't know. Just use the charge shot. It's much easier. The layout of this room is different from the first version of the fight, so that's a neat detail, too. I think it makes it a little bit more difficult, because now the ring that she shoots out, it can potentially hit you if you are still on the ladder, but still not a very difficult boss, in my opinion. Alright, so 3 more left. Next up is Spiral Man. Oh, jeez. Alright, so what is he weak against? I think it's... Yes, it's Sickle Woman's weapon. Okay, then. So he's actually jumping around a little bit, which shake things up, kind of, I guess. And now he sucks you into the center of the room, and all the projectiles try to hit you there. I don't really know what the difference is. Also, another annoying thing that I noticed about Sickle Woman's weapon is that it can actually interrupt you if you are hit in the middle of its animation, and you'll end up wasting the ammo. So yes, I forgot what Sickle Woman's weakness was again. I guess I can't remember them very well, but I did notice that she is immune to the parabolic charge, which is kind of interesting. More bosses should probably be immune to that particular weapon, but yeah, the weakness is the Amalgam Inferno, so as soon as I figure out, what's new in this version of the fight is that she appears to be firing rolling cutters. Borrowing from Cutman, are we? Then again, she actually does kind of look like Cutman if you look at her in a certain way. Anyways, with that out of the way, the last boss should be Chimeraman, yes, and he is weak to ice cream. I have no idea how that works, but I guess he looks kind of like a dragon, and as we all know from the Pokemon games, dragons are very weak to sweets of any kind. Ice cream especially. And cupcakes. And it also seems to be able to bypass his shield, so there's that. Now it's time for Sheet Man himself. And can you guess what this sheet machine is going to be weak against? Yeah, it's actually weak against the teleport phaser. And this boss actually has 2 full health bars, but the teleport phaser does 10 whole damage, so this actually wrecks this boss. Like, I think you could use just the Buster if you bring, like, lots of E-Tanks, because you can buy E-Tanks in that shop. And somewhere along the line, I actually picked up an E-Tank myself. I actually can't remember where. I don't think you start the game with one. Anyways, ooh, that was a weird graphical glitch there. Like, the whole thing for that weapon just flew off into the sky when I hit Sheepman with it. But yes, he's immune to the parabolic charge, so we have no choice but to use the Buster only. And look, he really is hitting us with random access memory. He's ramming us with RAM. I sincerely hope that was an intentional pun, because that's awesome. Anyways, this is a pretty intense final boss battle, and, you know, I can actually appreciate that this game doesn't end with a giant robot of some kind. It's actually just you and a boss that's fairly close to your own size. So, that's a pretty nice boss with a lot of varied attacks, a very good way to end this Fangame. So yeah, almost done with him. It really came down to the wire. That was my only E-Tank. I have no idea where I got it. And, I don't know if he's, like, immune to charge shots or anything, but I eventually just resorted to pellets because I couldn't wait for the charge shot to actually charge. Anyways, Sheepman is down, and that's the end of this Fangame. Also, did I mention that the victory theme is awesome? It's the Mega Man 2 theme. That's so cool. Yes, so that's Mega Man Ram. It was a pretty interesting Fangame to play. It only lasted really 30 minutes in my replay of it. I think I only took 2 hours to beat it the first time. Hey, look, Pure Sabi's in the credits. I don't know why. Anyways, I think this is a pretty good Fangame. It's got a lot of creative ideas and clever weapons and neat stage ideas. The only really bad part was Spiral Man stage, in my opinion, because I ended up just bypassing the stage's entire gimmick with the teleport phaser. The teleport phaser itself is probably my favorite inclusion. I mean, being able to attack things by teleporting upwards past them. Really awesome weapon idea and concept. Anyways, that was Mega Man Ram. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough, and I will see you for whatever I decide to do next with my channel. Maybe check out a few more Fangames. We'll see how that goes. See you later, everybody.